Hey everybody, it is Dak here from the Ed Boys, and today's discussion video is going to be about gathering supplies through skilling and through PVM, I guess. The main point that I'm going to be hitting and trying to talk about is that too many skilling supplies come into the game through PVM activities. Overall, it makes skilling activities kind of a waste of time compared to bossing. I would like to see that gap between bossing money-making and skilling money-making get a little bit smaller, but I would like to see that happen without bringing PVM down, rather bringing skilling up. I would like to say that I think bossing and high-level combat money-making methods through raids should be more profitable than just generally grindy skilling methods. I don't have a problem with PVM being as powerful as it is for gains, but it's also bringing skilling down a little bit, so let's discuss. As with all of these discussion videos, it is a one-sided conversation until you join in the comments section below, so be sure to continue the discussion if you have anything to add. So I've already highlighted the problem in the intro. There's too many supplies from bossing and not enough from skilling, making skilling just not worth it in the long run. And by supplies, I mean specifically supplies that you would expect to get from skilling means, I guess. So something like a shark or fish in general. Sharks are used for combat since they do heal, but generally you would think of collecting sharks as like a fishing activity. Logs are a good example to highlight for this specific problem. There's a variety of reasons that logs are so cheap. It doesn't help that there's woodcutting bots and there's not like a ton of high-level uses for logs, though there are 3 skills that use logs to train in fire making, construction, and fletching. But it also doesn't help that so many different bosses drop logs. Like magic logs, dude, you can get magic logs from Vorkath, Bandos, Nightmare, Callisto, Venenatus, Vedian, Abyssire, Calphite Queen, Corporal Beast, Revenants, and plenty of other monsters that I haven't yet listed off because it's getting too long. There's enough monsters that you really never want to spend time actually chopping magic logs. It's a total waste of time. Most high-level bosses have some sort of commonly used supply on their drop table, like noted herbs or even some runes. That fact alone is not the problem that I have in mind. It's only a problem when you're getting a lot of those supplies and a variety of them. This means that you pretty much get to skip any skilling altogether as long as you're constantly getting boss kills. If you don't like skilling, then that is not a problem to you at all, and I don't blame you for that. Skilling is not currently very profitable compared to just continuing to get boss kills, which is why we're here today. I think the benefits of each activity should be a little bit more balanced. Skilling needs to be a little bit more profitable. So when you're grinding out any boss for like a big drop, you should be getting some mid-level drops that pay for your food and potions until you finally get that one big drop. But the majority of the money should be coming out of the big ticket item, not just like 100+ K every single kill, just constantly getting supply drops. The problem isn't purely on the shoulders of PVM though. PVM gives a lot of supplies and a lot of money because at higher levels it gets difficult and you are rewarded for that. Skilling at high levels never really gets that difficult in any way, so of course it's not going to be nearly as rewarding. I will be bringing this point back up as I talk about making skilling more worth it, but I wanted to at least give some credit to PVM here. There's a reason that you get a lot of stuff from it. You need higher stats and gear to get started, and the high level bosses are difficult. I have a couple ideas for how to make skilling better while trying not to make bossing worse, but solution number 1 may not be as fun for you. First thing, bossing drop tables should be reworked. And I do mean reworked, not just straight up nerfed. We don't just have to make them less money per hour. We just should take some of the stuff that's on the table off the table, maybe. It's not as fun of a solution as the next one, but it might be needed. Look. Vorkath drops noted Addy ore, grapes, magic logs, manta rays, and diamonds. Those are not all the noted things that he drops. Those are just some of the ones that you would expect from skilling. Why would you ever go mining, wood cutting, or I guess collecting grapes? There's not a lot of great ways to do it, but why would you do any other collecting method when you could just purely grind out Vorkath? He drops noted bones and noted dragonhide too, but those are already supplies that you would get from monsters. I feel like it's pretty reasonable that he does that. So if you just lowered the amount of supplies dropped, that's just a straight up nerf to the drop table like they did with Zora. It's not a rework. Personally, I am a fan of alchables like rune items and battle stabs as they are chilling at an alch value. They're reasonably good profit per alch. We could dive further into the conversation about needing more coin sinks if we get more coins in the game, but Jagex has been adding things like the GE tax and Bible bank spaces that have been adding ways to get rid of coins. Plus, in general, if we're making more drops that people need to buy, like if we're adding more unique big drops that are more expensive, you need to have more players with more coins. If there's only a couple people who can afford all this stuff, then there's not as much demand for it, and you can't sell anything. Like, people need to have coins to buy things. So we could add more alchables to a drop table if we're taking supplies off of that drop table, but I think profit needs to come from the unique drops on a boss as much as possible. Vorkath and Zulrah already have a pretty good setup with this. They have solid unique potential because of Zulrah's scales and superior dragon bones. They're constantly used supplies, and the only way to get them is through killing these bosses. Well, I guess you could fish some sacred eels too. There's also bigger uniques like the Blowpipe and other sought-out drops from Zulrah, and then Vorkath's big uniques are a lot more rare, but getting a Skeletal Visage is still a very nice payday. For a unique item to really carry the drop table though, they have to be very useful or they just slowly decrease in value, and eventually that boss is not worth as much money because it was being carried off that one item that is now kind of cheap. Items like the Blowpipe that require charges are very nice because it makes for a constant need for those scales. As much as it may not be fun to recharge your weapon, when they add weapons that require charges that are not just straight up money charges, but rather another new item you have to collect, it's kind of good for the game. Similar to Revenants dropping those big wieldy weapons, but then they also drop Revenant Ether, which is the charges for those weapons. That way, fighting Revenants will like always be profitable. It is a whole lot easier said than done to just add valuable, unique items to every boss table that are all worthwhile and will never like drop in price. The more best in slot items that we add, the more that we make old best in slot items obsolete, so they have to be unique best in slot items in some way. I think the PVM space is missing out on certain unique drops though, and actually Jagex has recently been hitting this space. When we think of useful, unique PVM drops, we think of weapons that help with more PvP. So like Raids 2 comes out, we're like, you gotta get that scythe. Raids 3 is coming out soon, we gotta get that new staff. What about items that are helping out with skilling though? We have some dragon tools. The dragon pickaxe and harpoon can only be obtained through PVM. The dragon axe, you can now get it through Wintertop, but it's mostly DKs that are bringing them in. Another thing that they added recently, though, was Blood Essence. This is a drop that can only be obtained in the Ancient Prison. That's the area that Nex is in the God Wars dungeon. Any of the monsters in that area can drop it, not only Nex. With an activated Blood Essence on you, you get more Blood Runes while Blood Rune crafting. They do have 1,000 charges in it, so skillers end up needing multiple Blood Essence. This improves the skillers' lives at Blood Rune crafting, and it adds some profit to the Nex drop table. Nex doesn't really need it right now because her other uniques are still insanely priced, but even the other regular monsters in that lair have that drop, so this benefits both sides. We need more drops like Blood Essence. I like the idea of PVM drops that can go ahead and be used to make skilling better. It makes a balance where both activities need to be done and both activities are benefiting from each other. So that same idea that we're ending Solution 1 on, it brings me to Solution 2. Skilling should drop more things that help PVM. I'm not saying to just buff the amount of supplies that we got here. So fishing Karambwans is helpful for PVM in the long run. Farming herbs and secondaries to make potions, yeah, that's helpful for PVM because you use them. But I'm not saying to just up like the amount of fish and stuff that you can get. Skilling already benefits PVM, and it's not even just that your skilling benefits your PVM. Skillers who are collecting all this stuff help PVMers who don't want to go collect this stuff and they just buy it. You do both need each other. So what I mean by skilling should drop more things that help PVM is we need more unique PVM bonuses that can only be obtained through skilling or paying somebody who did the skilling with some GP. Go economy. So example number 1, charges to certain weaponry should be obtained through skilling. Think about crystal shards. They need to be used to charge crystal armor and the crystal weapons, plus they make divine potions. They can be obtained through the gauntlet though, so even though you can grind them through like agility and woodcutting and Prifendos, you really don't have to, so it makes the skilling parts kind of a waste of time. If you want a lot of shards, you should just go do gauntlet. Zolcano is really not that bad. Zolcano in general gets a big thumbs up for skilling in my opinion. Blood shards are another solid example. You can pickpocket blood shards. It's actually a very good skilling moneymaker. You could also get blood shards from just slaying Vyres though, which it is balanced pretty well. Blood shards are still pretty expensive, but it's not necessarily a skilling exclusive PVM upgrade. Chinchompas fit the category extremely well. They can only be obtained through Hunter, and they're only used for combat. It is a great balance for skilling helping out combat, and it's very profitable. Catching chins ends up being one of the few skilling methods that lands over 1 mil GP an hour. RS3 actually has a good example of a combat upgrade that requires skilling to do. Oh no, not RS3. This was actually an update from 2008, so it just barely missed the timestamp of where the OSRS servers are based off of. In RS3, you can catch Grenwalls for Grenwall spikes, which can be used to make extreme ranging potions. Sounds very intense, but it's a simple example of skilling gains that directly correlate to your PVM gains. The two categories can help each other out, so to help skilling, I propose that charges and upgrades for new weapons, or potions and food upgrades, should only be obtainable through skilling means. Not that every single weapon that comes out from now on has to be like skilling based, but some of them should be to help skilling. These things can be tradable too. I'm not trying to say that PVMers should be forced to do skilling so that they can upgrade their stuff. They should be able to just buy the items from the skillers that they want to. This would make skilling more beneficial while not screwing over PVM and just nerfing the drop tables. A different example for when I said skilling should drop more things that help PVM goes back to the Blood Essence. Blood Essence is not used to upgrade your pouches or to charge other items, rather it's its own unique reward. Skilling activities should drop unique rewards that are straight up just used in PvM. I don't have a ton of fantastic ideas that I'm about to pitch, but let's at least get something on the table for an example. Let's stick to the blood theme. Maybe while you're blood rune crafting or pickpocketing a Vire, since it gives a little extra incentive on the blood shard and it's kind of blood related. Say you can get a rare drop, we'll call it a blood spirit. The blood spirit can be activated in your inventory, and then while you do any damage and you have an activated blood spirit, you're going to heal health based off of the damage that you dealt. Kind of like a blood fury, but in your inventory space. It could last for only a handful of charges or a small amount of time, and you could balance how much it heals so that it's not going to be broken or useless, but it would be a fun idea. Not necessarily very unique. Everything blood related heals based off the damage you've done. I even immediately compared it to the blood fury. So how about this one? Maybe when crafting soul runes, you can instead get a soul spirit. Activate the soul spirit in your inventory and it heals prayer points based on how much damage you do. As with any new item, it would have to be balanced. Just saying that, like, it could heal full prayer points for hitting like a 10. Like, no, we don't want it to be broken or useless. Like, it has to be a good balance, but it's kind of an idea for getting a unique PvM related item from skilling. With more PvM upgrades from skilling, we could make skilling more beneficial and profitable, and we wouldn't have to rework the PvM drop tables. In fact, we would make PvM better too. I don't necessarily think that some of these unique drops should just be added to old grindy methods, even though that's where the idea started. I was saying, like, just soul rune crafting could give you this soul spirit. Jagex has been doing a good job at adding big skilling activities like Guardians of the Rift, Solcano, Temperos, Wintertodd, and we're less than a week away from Giant's Foundry. These are mostly based on adjusting how to train these skills, though. They have decent rewards, but it was more about the XP that you're getting. I think Jagex should give some skilling bosses that are somewhat difficult. It doesn't have to be like the challenge mode raised or something insanely hard, but something that requires some effort, and it gives big rewards, generally not focusing on XP as much. That way we can give these big skilling rewards, and it wouldn't be like super easy and broken to grind them out necessarily. So with combat, you train to 90 plus on your combat stats, you save up a bunch of cash for really high level gear, then you can go crank out bosses for money. The things that you fight to train your stats, those are not the same things that you fight for profit. So if we're talking about more unique, higher level skilling rewards, I think it would make sense if there were higher level skilling things to get those rewards that were a little bit more based off of profit and rewards rather than just your XP. I do want skilling to be a little bit better balanced, but there still needs to be the balance of difficulty to profit per hour. I've been talking about the balance of PvM and skilling, but you can't just make something worth like 2 or 3 mil an hour for doing nothing. All right, let me try and wrap these thoughts up. I want to say again, I have no problem with high-level PvM being more profitable than high-level skilling. It is harder, it requires more hours to get ready for things like raids, but the gap is pretty big. The maximum amount you're going to make for skilling is just so much less than bossing. You can get like 3 or 4 times as much money with bossing, and bossing is lowering the profit of skilling methods by pumping supplies into the game, so it's just making the gap worse at the moment. Reworking the boss tables to give less supplies would bring less supplies into the game, making the price go up, and that would make skilling methods more profitable. Overall, I think the correct direction is to make more unique skilling drops that help PvM, and more unique PvM drops that help skilling. That way, both things do help each other out, and they will always be beneficial to grind out. That is about it for this discussion video, everybody. There's actually a lot of layers to this that you could get into. I tried my best to condense everything I said into this one discussion vid and hopefully get my point across. I love PvM, but I am sad that skilling is just not worth your time compared to PvM. As for a discussion, it has been pretty one-sided as I am just sitting here blabbing onto you while you listen to me. Be sure to continue the discussion below in the comments section, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. Thanks again for watching this skilling discussion video, everyone. If you enjoyed the video or you just got some useful information out of it, be sure to like and subscribe for more content. I do stream on Twitch, which should be linked on the screen and in the description. I'm also on Twitter and have a Discord, which are linked in the description. Thanks again for watching, everyone, and best of luck on your grinds.